Hello and welcome to the second part of your 6-hour update for Depth and Complexity. As a means of introductions, Celeste Sodergren is the new Director of Advanced Academics here in Waco ISD. My name is Amanda Jo Ponder. I'm the Elementary and GT Coordinator, and we have Dr. Carla Donaldson, who is the Secondary Coordinator. If you're on an elementary campus, you're probably most familiar with the GT enrichment teachers, Laramie Ars, Jackie Brewer, Amanda Coatney, Crystal Stanford, and Nikayla Taylor. Not going to worry about the business stuff since you are watching this at your leisure. However, if you feel so moved by this presentation that you would like to brag about it, please do so using our Twitter handle or our Facebook handle. Likewise, you can access this presentation to reminisce later using the bit.ly code right here. All right, in the first part of this training, you watched teacher videos where you saw teachers implementing the depth and complexity with their students. So for this part of the presentation, we're going to get a little bit more deep and complex in our understanding of the icons. So if you keep in mind that depth and complexity is a framework that is used to differentiate for any grade level, any content area, and that's kind of the beauty of it, is that this isn't just an ELAR thing or just a math, science, social studies thing. And so what the depth and complexity icons do is it's used to help students get to that real critical thinking level in their understanding of the content in your class. So the icons are used just as reminders for what it is you want them to focus on at that moment. So if we were to break the icons into two groups, we would have the ones that are used to go deeper in the content on the left, and the ones that are used to build complexity on the right. So if you notice, there's a lot more over here on the left-hand side. And the reason for that is because if the students don't understand the basics of your content, they're going to struggle immensely with going to the abstract. Right? It's kind of like if they don't understand how to write a sentence, they will not write a paragraph very well at all. And so it is okay to hover in this area a majority of the time, so long as you are building in instances where they can go deeper with it and make those complex connections with it. So if you look, for instance, the language of the discipline, there's a specific language for math, science, English, history, all of those. And so you need to think about, are there multiple perspectives on the language use? Has language changed over the years and how we talk about it? Is language different across the disciplines? How so? Or how is it similar? And so just building in opportunities for them to take the basics and go a lot more deep with it. So part of the success with this is that students build their academic and content vocabulary, the vernacular, if you will, for your class and for the content. And so what that means is if I'm asking students to think about the language of the discipline, there's certain things I want them to look for and know about. I want them to understand not only what jargon and vocabulary and eponyms mean, but how does that affect what it is that they're doing in the class. Same with big ideas. If I'm asking students to examine big ideas, I'm expecting them to look at systems and global themes, principles, generalizations, theories, summarizations. So just taking time in my own teaching to build in all of the synonyms that go with each of the icons. So how do you use the icons? Well, as with most things, you start off small and kind of basic to build that in. Now, the thing I love about depth and complexity is that most of us do this. We just haven't come up with a really cool name for it, right? And so when we start with one icon at a time. Don't throw it all to them all at once. And after they start demonstrating mastery in the different icons on its own, then start to overlap them. And once they've overlapped some of the deeper ones, throw in one of the complexity icons to see how they do. Because ultimately, we want them to get to that really complex thinking, that real critical thinking level of your content. All right, and so for just a moment, I need you to just think about your understanding of differentiation and how this framework might benefit your class and your students. What we're going to do now is talk about resources. So one of the first things that we have are the Chrome extensions. If you downloaded this, you can find the Chrome extensions by clicking on the link. And all that does is open up the Chrome Web Store. I've already downloaded it, and so what that means is if I click on my puzzle piece up here for extensions, it will open up my depth and complexity icons. So I'm going to set mine up as, why not, emojis. And so what this allows me to do is if I had my lesson plans open, I could just drag and drop the icons down there where I need them to be. All right, and so this kind of takes away the fuss of copy, cutting, pasting, resizing, all of that nonsense. It makes it a lot easier to just drag and drop into your lesson plans. The next resource, and these are things that have been given to your campus, so they are somewhere on your campus, are the talk cards. The talk cards are cool. It comes in 2 packs. One has activities, and so there's different activities that go with each of the icons. So if you're wanting to do a think, write, pair share with the students, but you're not quite sure how to set that up and facilitate it with your students, it will provide a little walkthrough for you. Very short, very brief, just to give you a good idea of what to do. But in the second pack, it will have question stems and sentence starters and kind of frameworks to help students respond. Just as we're building in their confidence in using the different icons, just a way to really strengthen their mastery there. Along with that, we have cue cards. It's just what it implies. These are more sentence stems and question stems that you can use with students. Typically, I did these for independent work where there would be a station set up, one station for each of the icons that we were working on, and students would rotate around using it for journal time, or maybe I was asking them to create a research question, and so I wanted them to specifically look at different areas of critical thinking. Some teachers enjoy the stamps. What a lot of teachers have used these for is to reinforce student thinking. So in reviewing student journaling, if the teacher notices something that the student has done, they will just put a stamp next to it. So if I'm reading and I notice that you are discussing the big idea for the content for the day, I might put a stamp mark next to it because I want the student to know that I notice what they're doing. There's also a game. This was fun to use for small groups, sometimes whole group. And it's a series of cards based on each of the icons, so different question stems for each. And what students would do is they just spin the little dial and they select a card from that icon and they have to respond to it. So it's kind of a fun, competitive way of building content knowledge and complexity. The next are the lookbooks. I've seen this used more at the elementary level. However, I'm sure high school and middle school could use it as well. And it's just a way for students to track their responses and their understanding. It's good to use if you are just introducing it to them, like so as a first step in introducing them to it, to get them used to what each of the icons means, what some of the details are for each of the icons. And the last one are the dice. So this was another fun one that I used for independent work, but also whole group instruction. So once students have mastery over the icons and they understand what they mean, you know, they would take turns rolling the dice and coming up with questions for the text or responses to the text or statements. You could do this any way you like, but just really putting the ownership on the students to build that depth and complexity in their own understanding. All right, so what I want you to do here is we're going to pause the video, take a moment to respond to the reflection guide that I set up for you. And once you're done with those, come back and we'll keep trucking. All right, the big meat and potatoes for this lesson is actually implementing it into your lesson plan. So what I want you to think about is an upcoming lesson. It could be tomorrow's, it could be next week, it could be the next 6 weeks, whatever you need. But I want you to think about where you can incorporate at least one depth and complexity icon in order to differentiate and strengthen your content. Again, you need to follow the instructions that your campus gives you about lesson plan format, of that nature, but really working with it so you can build in specific instances where you want kids to go deeper with their understanding of your class. There are some examples down here. I've been told that these are more relevant to elementary school, but it's mostly just so you can see how they can be used. So go ahead and pause the video as you work on this. All right, in closing this video, I did want to take just a minute to talk to you about equity and access to the GT program here in Waco ISD. The nomination period is open at this moment. As a nation, there are 3.6 million students who are overlooked for GT identification and services. As a teacher, as a campus representative, you are more familiar with your students and the kids on campus. And so we rely on you to really scout out the students who should be nominated for GT. According to the Texas State Plan, there is a mandate. It says that the population of our district should be reflected in the population of the GT program. Right? The problem with that we've noticed is that a lot of times our non-traditional students are overlooked. So, especially here in Waco, we have a very diverse population. There's so many different languages spoken here, different socioeconomic status, cultures, backgrounds, everything. And so we want to make sure that we are reaching out to the kids who maybe have been overlooked. Because ultimately our goal is to encourage equal representation of the student populations. More information can be found on our Advanced Academics Hub. There's a lot of documents and details on here that might be useful to you and your campus. You can access it using the bit.ly code down here at the bottom. And just as we talk about the nomination process, nomination period is open right now. We will start our testing period in October. But what it needs to start with is just a nomination. Anyone can nominate a student. A student can nominate another student or him or herself. A custodian can do it. Anyone can nominate a student. However, there are some questionnaires that must be completed as well, specifically from the parent, as well as at least one teacher. There is a nomination checklist. You can find that on the hub. But once that checklist has been completed and it's formed into a packet, we are working to digitize, but right now it's still just a paper packet. Your person of contact for your campus will then deliver it to my office, where we will review it and prepare to test students. As I said, the nomination period is open right now. We will move into the testing period in October. We will be doing a universal screener for both 2nd and 5th grade at every elementary campus. However, if there are students who are nominated that are in other grades, they will be tested in the same window. Also, just keep in mind that any student, any 5th grader who wants to go to Atlas for next year, they have to be nominated and tested this fall so that they can then do their Atlas application. Okay, well, thanks for hanging out with me today. Again, if you need any answers or information, please reach out to somebody in our department. Celeste Sodergren is the director. Amanda Jo Ponder, I am the GT and Elementary Coordinator, and Dr. Carla Donaldson is the Secondary Coordinator.